Imagine a killer, someone who takes life, someone without remorse. Now, picture them. What do they look like? An adult? Surely. A shadowy figure. But what if I told you the monster was barely a child? What if I told you, by the age of 8, a boy had already claimed 3 lives, and he smiled as he confessed? Tonight, we unbuckle our seatbelts, go Mach 5, slam on the brakes, and bust through this windshield into the chilling world of juvenile killers. This isn't a work of fiction. This is the true story of Amarjit Sada. Born in 1998 in Bucharest, a place where poverty wasn't just a statistic, it was a way of life. Electricity was unreliable, education a luxury, and mental health care practically not. In these forgotten pockets of India, superstition stood in place of science. Mental illness was feared, concealed, blamed on spirits. Families struggling with psychological disorders wouldn't seek therapy. They'd turn to shamans, or worse, do nothing at all. Public shame meant cases were buried quietly. Amarjit was never liked by other children. He had no friends. When asked to play, he'd lash out in sudden bursts of anger. Villagers described him as strange, withdrawn, early indicators of detachment and harmful potential. His mother, Peru, noticed his temper, an intensity she couldn't explain. Instead of doctors, she turned to tradition, smearing black kyle under his eyes to ward off evil, placing an amulet of protection from the Hanuman temple around his arm. But no amulet could stop what was manifesting inside this child. Then, tragedy struck. Seemingly out of nowhere, Amarjit's infant cousin died under suspicious circumstances. The family made a devastating choice. They kept quiet. They called it an accident. They shielded him. They were, in essence, rewarding the behavior of their murdering child. The darkness unfolded quickly. Not long after, his 8-month-old infant sister became his next victim. Amarjit strangled her to death with his bare hands. Again, the family did not report the crime. Out of shame, fear, or pure disbelief, they buried not just their child, but the truth. Then, in 2007, the village was shaken. A 3rd child went missing. Her mother left her sleeping at the local school, stepped away, and returned to an empty space. The community searched, and that's when Amarjit stepped forward. He confessed, casually, even cheerfully. Officers couldn't believe it. An 80-year-old. A prank, surely. But then, he led them right to the body hidden away, buried in a shallow grave. The infant had been strangled and bludgeoned to death with a brick. When questioned by police, Amarjit reportedly smiled through his entire confession. He even asked for biscuits. Investigators, stunned, listened as he described the murder with chilling detachment. He was quoted saying, "She was sleeping in the school, I took her a little away, killed her with a brick and buried her." Forensic psychologists concluded Amarjit was a child who found pleasure in inflicting pain. This wasn't a prank gone wrong. This was something far, far darker, far rarer. The news sent shockwaves across India and the world. But then, the difficult question: what do you do with a killer child? In 2007, Indian law was clear. A child under 18 could not be tried as an adult. No prison sentence, no criminal trial, no possibility of life imprisonment, certainly no death penalty. Instead, Amarjit was placed in a juvenile detention facility, the only legal option available. He spent the next 10 years there. The maximum sentence allowed for a minor. Reports suggested he received counseling, education, behavioral therapy. But the truth, almost nothing is known about what happened inside those walls. No updates, 0 interviews. His files slowly disappeared from public view. In 2016, he turned 18. Under Indian law, his record was completely sealed. His identity changed to protect his future, to prevent vigilante retaliation. Today, his current location is completely unknown to the public. Some say he relocated under government protection. Others believe he may have quietly reintegrated into society under a new identity. Amarjit Sada is still confirmed the youngest serial killer in modern history. Somewhere, perhaps walking among us, he lives his life as a full-grown man, a full-blown psychopathic sadist, his past completely erased, his secrets completely buried. Can someone who kills before they learn to even write truly be free from who they were? It begs the question, is this pure nature? Was he born with this in him? From the silent, forgotten pockets of India, we move now to the quiet suburbs of Canada, to Medicine Hat, Alberta. Here, in 1993, Jasmine Richardson was born. Her home was ordinary, middle class. Her parents, Mark and Deborah, had met in recovery from substance abuse. They were committed to starting over, raising a family far from past mistakes. Mark was hardworking, strict but loving. Deborah soft-spoken, warm, involved in her children's lives. Jasmine was their firstborn, followed 5 years later by her little brother, Jacob. By all accounts, a close family. And Jasmine, she was bright, honor roll at Catholic school, performed in fine arts, laughed with friends, made crafts, went to sleepovers. A pretty normal child, until she wasn't. Around age 11, something changed. Jasmine began gravitating towards goth subculture, dark fashion, heavy eyeliner, and online communities, places where she could shed the expectations of her quiet suburban world. Her MySpace and VompIrefreaks.com profiles painted a new picture, one where she was older, rebellious, fascinated with serial killers, immersed in fantasy. The 11-year-old told people she was 15. She posted poetry about death and violence, and somewhere, in those digital shadows, she met him. Jeremy Steinke. He was 23 years old, dating a 15-year-old who was actually an almost 12-year-old. Jeremy had a horrific upbringing, beaten by family members, raised by alcoholics, no excuse. He was a high school dropout who believed he was a 300-year-old werewolf. He allegedly wore a vial of blood around his neck and enjoyed its taste. He was everything a parent would fear. When Jasmine's parents discovered their relationship, they forbade it immediately. Good parents, right? But for Jasmine, that only fueled the fire. Fascination turned into obsession. Within months, the girl who once played dressed up in her childhood bedroom would be planning the murder of her entire family. Jeremy groomed her into the relationship, online. They built an entire fantasy world, exchanging cryptic, disturbing messages. Their communication grew increasingly intense, romantic, violent, conspiratorial. When her parents tried to create barriers, Jasmine rebelled, sneaking out, going to concerts, and as the barriers grew, they began to imagine a world without them. "I have this plan," Jasmine wrote in one online message. "It begins with me killing them and ends with me living with you." Shortly before the murders, they watched the film Natural Born Killers, a violent cult classic about a couple on a killing spree. Jeremy idolized it, claiming it was the best love story of all time. He didn't want to lose Jasmine. He was willing to kill for her. What followed was not just a crime of passion, it was the complete unraveling of reality itself. Guided by fantasy, fueled by obsession. It was a quiet Sunday morning in Medicine Hat. Police arrived at the Richardson family household. Inside, a scene so gruesome, so unthinkable, it would haunt the country for years. 3 members of the Richardson family were dead: Mark, Deborah, and their 8-year-old son, Jacob, slaughtered in their own home. Their 12-year-old daughter was missing. But this wasn't the kidnapping. This was the plan. Hours earlier, Jeremy had entered the home through a basement window. Drunk, under the influence of cocaine, marijuana, and ecstasy, armed with knives, Deborah Richardson, hearing a noise, went to investigate. She encountered Jeremy. Before she could scream, he attacked. Multiple stab wounds, defensive injuries. She died in the basement. Mark heard the struggle, grabbed a screwdriver, but he too was outmatched. Unprepared, Jeremy stabbed him repeatedly, leaving him to bleed out. And all this was happening while Jasmine was there, participating. Then came the part no one wants to believe. Jasmine's 80-year-old little brother Jacob. Both Jasmine and Jeremy blame each other for what happened next. The truth is but what we know: Jacob was stabbed multiple times, his throat slashed. There are reports he attempted to defend himself with his toy light. This was supposedly done because they didn't want him to live as an orphan, a courtesy. It's sickening. After the horrific damage, their lives taken, they left, went to a friend's house, attended a party, they laughed, they kissed, they bragged up the atrocities. They were celebrating. The next morning, Jasmine was listed as a missing person. Authorities believed she was kidnapped, but within 24 hours, the truth came out. Evidence from her room, online messages. She wasn't a victim, she was a suspect. Jasmine and Jeremy were tracked down and arrested, both charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. Neither showed any emotion. In 2008, Jeremy was convicted, sentenced to 3 life sentences, consecutively, with possibility of parole after 25 years. Jasmine's trial was more complicated. She was only 12 at the time, making her the youngest person in Canadian history to be charged with multiple homicides. Psychologists testified she was emotionally immature, likely under Jeremy's influence, lacking full capacity to understand the consequences. Still, the jury found her guilty on all 3 counts. Under Canadian law, she couldn't be sentenced as an adult. Jasmine received the maximum for a minor, 10 years, time in a psychiatric institution, followed by conditional supervision. Her sentencing wasn't just about punishment, it was about rehabilitation. The country was split. Was she a child manipulated by a predator, or a cold-blooded killer? Today you won't find Jasmine. No press conferences, no interviews, not a trace. Jasmine Richardson, now in her 30s, walks completely free. She served her full 10-year sentence. In May 2016, it ended. Her record sealed, her name protected, released from all court-ordered conditions. During rehabilitation, she reportedly enrolled in university classes. Those who encountered her had no idea who she really was. Just another student, just another face in the crowd. Her exact whereabouts are undisclosed. Her identity cannot be revealed in Canadian media. Some believe she lives near her old community. The nation remains divided. To some, Jasmine Richardson was a success story, proof the system can To others, she's just a ghost walking free. a reminder of a crime too dark to forget. Wherever she is, she carries a past that cannot be erased. From obsession born online, we turn to a different kind of killer, one crushed under the weight of responsibility long before she was old enough to read. In the winter of 1965 in Murcia, Spain, one of the most chilling and least understood cases in European criminal history unfolded. At its center, a 12-year-old girl named Piedad Martinez del Guia. Born in 1953, Piedad was the third of 10 children. Her family struggled to survive, her father her mother, a part-time kitchen worker. They lived in El Carmen, a working-class neighborhood defined by poverty, overcrowding, and hard labor. No luxury, no privacy, only noise, hunger, and the never-ending demands of survival. While other children her age were in school, learning to read and write, Piedad was home. She cleaned, cooked, changed diapers. At 12 years old, she was the default caretaker for her 7 younger siblings. Jesus 10, Cristina 8, Manuela 6, Andres 5, Santa 4, Mariano 2, and baby Maria only 9 months old. Her 2 older brothers worked at an auto shop, sometimes bringing work home. Piedad had to help clean and polish metal parts, using small bars of chemical substance they provided. Her parents were gone most of the day. The weight of the household, the chaos of caring for 7 younger siblings, fell squarely on her very small shoulders. She carried it quietly, obediently, until something broke, and no one noticed at first. She was just a little girl. A girl who couldn't read, whose world was confined to 4 crumbling walls, the wailing of babies, and the suffocating pressure of poverty. But inside her, something else was forming. Not resentment, not a rebellious intent. It began with a fever. On December 4, 1965, baby Maria del Carmen, 9 months old, began convulsing violently. A rash, soaring temperature. Within half an hour she passed away. The family doctor arrived too late. He said it was likely meningitis. A tragedy, but an isolated one. Or so they thought. 5 days later it happened again. Mariano, only 2 years old, died under nearly identical circumstances. Neighbors began distancing themselves, fearing a contagious illness. Then, 5 days later, once again, Santa, just 4 years old, died just as quickly as her siblings. With the same symptoms, 3 children, within 10 days, all gone. This time, the doctor refused to sign the death certificate. He suspected something else. The family brought their surviving children to Murcia General Hospital for evaluation. Many tests. But in 1965, Spain diagnostic technology was limited. No immediate answers. No conclusive cause. The family was sent home. All children, including the family, received multivitamin concentrates to boost immunity, they hoped. Within days of their release, it happened again. January 4, 1966. 5-year-old Andres was dead, seemingly fine half an hour before. This time, no assumptions. They were determined to find the cause. Samples of tissue were sent to the National Institute of Toxicology. And there, they found their answer. The culprit, potassium cyanide indeed. Back in Murcia, pathologists re-examined the first 2 deceased children. Nothing. But then, they reportedly fed 21 guinea pigs and a dog with pieces of the children's organs. All the animals died suddenly. They knew the children were poisoned. When police asked who was last seen with the victims, one name came up again and again. By mid-January 1966, the city of Murcia no longer whispered about the deaths. They shouted for dead children. No explanation. No arrests. Only grief and suspicion. On January 14th, both parents, Andres and Antonia, were arrested. Authorities suspected filicide, the killing of one's child. Antonia, pregnant, was confined to a maternity ward. Andres sent to a psychiatric facility. The surviving children were split. Detectives hoped their killer might slip up. The story reached national headlines. Journalists descended on Murcia, and what they found stunned everyone. The children, just weeks after bearing 4 siblings, were laughing, playing, smiling. One photographer recalled 6-year-old Manuela looking directly into his lens and saying, "Chillingly, you want to take my picture because I'm going to die next." Then, she went back to her game like it was nothing. But behind those playful scenes, detectives watched someone else. Someone quieter, someone colder. Piedad, her effect was flat, her gaze unshaken. She always seemed to be the last one with each of the dead. But still, no proof. Then, on January 24th, a detective had an idea. He took 12-year-old Piedad to a local cafe. He ordered her a glass of milk. Then, with a sleight of hand, he pretended to spike her drink with the same metal cleaning compound her brothers used at work. She noticed immediately. She grabbed his wrist. "Don't do that," she said. "You could seriously harm someone with that stuff." The detective answered, "Is it harmful? Is it like the stuff you gave your little siblings?" Per the detective's account, it was written all over her face. He stared into her eyes in silence until she spoke again. "It was me who killed the 4 of them," Piedad continued. "The first 3 by order of my mother, and the last one," the detective asked, I killed him myself alone, Piedad replied. I acted on my own. She was 12 years old. She explained her methods with chilling precision. How she turned potassium chloride, cyanide, and DDT-based insecticides into tiny lethal, then mixed them into milk and food. Each child suffered agonizing deaths, roughly 30 minutes. Only Fanta had time to cry out, "Quick, come here, I'm dying." These were not moments of rage, not revenge. They were planned, repeated, refined. A child behaving like a trained assassin. Her parents were held longer, especially after Piedad implicated her mother. But Piedad's story kept changing. Eventually, detectives concluded she just lied. Her surviving siblings were removed from both parents' custody. Piedad was brought before a juvenile court, sent to a psychiatric institution for observation. There, she thrived, laughed with nurses, befriended staff. Psychologists were alarmed. She was found to have a sound mind. She knew what she was doing. Very smart, extremely calculated. She was fully aware of right and wrong, but capable of ignoring morality when it suited her. By summer 1966, Piedad was officially diagnosed as a psychopath. In one of her many confessions, she summed up her motive simply: "I was tired of taking care of them." Cold, heartbreaking. She could not be tried as an adult. Spanish law wouldn't allow it. She was under the age of criminal responsibility. Instead, the judge ordered Piedad committed indefinitely to a Catholic institution called Los Oblatos, a convent, not a prison. Here, behind these walls, one of the youngest serial killers in history would grow up. She didn't rebel, didn't lash out. The nuns described her as social. She even took up knitting. This wasn't the behavior of a child racked with guilt. It was something else entirely. She just didn't care about anything other than herself. As years passed, Piedad settled into life at the convent. She often spoke about her future, possibly moving in with her aunt. In time, Piedad was released. There's no definitive answer of what happened next. Some believe she assumed a new identity. Others, that she became a nun. She seemingly just vanished, leaving us to wonder what became of one of Spain's and the world's most juvenile offenders, Amarja Jasmine Piedad. 3 names etched into the shadows of true crime history, all of whom took lives in unimaginable ways. Amarja, a sadist from a world of silence and superstition. Jasmine, rebellious and emotionally stunted, pulled into fantasy and obsession. Piedad, highly intelligent but void of empathy, crushed under adult responsibility. These stories leave questions society still struggles to answer. What makes a child kill? Are these stories of nature or nurture? Are children born different, broken, or cold? Or were the systems they were raised in what failed them? When a child takes a life, who is truly held accountable? The child, the family, the society and circumstances that shape them? Or do we just not have the right answer yet? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And until next time, stay safe out there.